Welcome to Speaking History, friends. Today marks the third episode of our ongoing series, The True History. In this episode, we delve into a complex and often debated narrative surrounding the creation of Pakistan and its historical identity. Have you ever wondered, why is the shared history of the region often overshadowed by radical perspectives? Was Mahmud of Ghazni a hero or merely a plunderer? In today's video, we'll uncover the answers to these questions and explore the role of historical figures, ideological conflicts, and selective narratives in shaping Pakistan's identity. After the creation of Pakistan, various narratives have emerged to justify its existence. These narratives, often conflicting, provide insight into the nation's evolving identity. One narrative describes Pakistan as a state for Muslims, emphasizing moderation and differentiating between a Muslim state and a state for Muslims. Another views Pakistan as a revolutionary state with a unique ideological vision, claiming its sole purpose was to actualize this ideology, disregarding other considerations. A third, far-right radical perspective suggests Pakistan's creation inherently negated India's existence. This viewpoint dismisses thousands of years of shared history, reducing the region's interconnected legacy to a simplistic divide. Critics of this extreme perspective highlight a glaring flaw. Historical figures who harmed India are celebrated as heroes, often ignoring that these actions impacted people across the region, including those in present-day Pakistan. Renowned historian Ayesha Jalal succinctly argues that Pakistan replaced history with ideology, presenting distorted narratives rather than facts. Poet John Elia similarly warned that a nation built on hatred as a central ideology is unlikely to endure. The notion of selective historical interpretation isn't new. Philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once observed that some nations treat history as a museum, donning costumes of convenience to suit their needs. Pakistan exemplifies this, oscillating between Turkish, Central Asian, Arabic, and Iranian historical narratives. Yet, the one identity it rarely embraces is its indigenous heritage, rooted in the ancient Indus Valley civilization. This backdrop adds weight to a recent controversy ignited by Pakistan's defense minister, Khawaja Asif. Known for his candid opinions, Asif, during a television interview, labeled Mahmud of Ghazni as a thief and a plunderer who looted India. He firmly rejected Mahmud as a hero or icon, a statement that sent shockwaves through political and historical circles. The reaction was polarizing. While many applauded Asif for his boldness, others vehemently criticized him. Among the latter were the Taliban, who condemned his remarks as insolent and historically inaccurate. They pointed out the irony of Pakistan naming its missiles after Mahmud of Ghazni, while a high-ranking official discredited him. This debate has reignited questions about Pakistan's identity and the selective use of history to construct national narratives. Was Mahmud of Ghazni a hero, as many have claimed, or merely a plunderer with imperial ambitions? To evaluate this hypothesis, one must first examine the origins of the Ghaznavid Empire, its prehistory, and the ambitions of the Turkish generals who rose to prominence within the Samanid Empire in the mid-10th century. The origins of the Ghaznavid dynasty trace back to Alptigin, a Samanid Turkish general who played a pivotal role in its establishment. Appointed as the governor of Khorasan, Alptigin asserted his dominance in Jablistan, a region in eastern Afghanistan, by defeating the Hindu Shahi dynasty. His efforts opened the predominantly pagan regions of central and eastern Afghanistan to Ghaznavid influence. After Alptigin's death, his legacy was carried forward by his son-in-law, Sabuktigin, who became the head of the Ghaznavid military in 977. Sabuktigin, a Turkic Kyrgyz by origin, not only suppressed internal rebellions in Khorasan, but also laid the groundwork for the Ghaznavid state. His military campaigns brought the Kabul River region under Ghaznavid control following his decisive victory over Raja Jayapala of the Hindu Shahi dynasty in 1886. This marked a significant shift in regional power dynamics, extending Ghaznavid influence to Peshawar and setting the stage for Sultan Mahmud of Ghazni's rise. It is critical to note that these conquests were not ideologically or religiously motivated, as many narratives claim. Instead, the primary objective was the pursuit of wealth from India, often romanticized as the Golden Bird. Upon Sabuktigin's death in 997, an intriguing succession battle unfolded. Although Sabuktigin had named his younger son Ismail as his successor, Mahmud of Ghazni defied this decision. With ambitions for power, Mahmud defeated his brother Ismail, imprisoned him for life in Ghazni, and assumed control of the dynasty. Under Mahmud's reign, Ghazni underwent a dramatic transformation. Initially not a major urban center, it became a hub of wealth and influence as Mahmud funneled plundered treasures from India into the city. To solidify his rule and secure legitimacy, Mahmud sought endorsement from the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad. In return, he lavished the caliphate with gifts acquired through his raids, ensuring their symbolic support. Historians have documented that Mahmud portrayed himself as a staunch defender of Sunni Islam, though his actions reveal a more complex and often brutal reality. His campaigns targeted not only non-Muslims but also non-Sunni communities. He positioned himself as a bulwark against the Shia Buyid dynasty of Iraq and Iran and the Fatimid Ismailis of Egypt and Syria. Mahmud's aggressive stance propagated a version of Sunni Islam that tolerated no dissent, declaring that those who opposed his ideology forfeited their right to live. This was not mere rhetoric. Historical evidence substantiates these claims. Mahmud's ambition also led to the expansion of the Ghaznavid Empire, which reached unprecedented heights by 998 CE. Stretching from Azerbaijan in the west to the Kangra Valley in India in the east, and from Khwarezm in the north to Makran and Sindh along the Indian Ocean in the south, the empire spanned vast territories. This territorial expansion marked the zenith of Ghaznavid power and firmly established Mahmud as one of the most prominent figures in the region's history. In 999 CE, the Ghaznavid dynasty reached a turning point by annihilating the Samanid dynasty. Shortly after, they subdued Sistan, which was under the Saffarids, by 1009 CE, defeated the Balok in Makran, and negotiated their way into controlling Khwarezm. With Ghazni established as their military capital, the Ghaznavids solidified their position as a dominant power in the region. Turning to India, the conflict with the Hindu Shahi dynasty had already begun under Sabuktigin's rule. While the narratives often emphasize religious motivations, the reality was rooted in territorial expansion. The Hindu Shahis were a major obstacle to the Ghaznavids' ambitions in northern India, and dismantling this dynasty became a strategic necessity. In 1001 CE, Mahmud of Ghazni defeated Jayapala, the ruler of the Hindu Shahi dynasty. Later, in 1009 CE, Jayapala's son, Anandapala, suffered a similar fate. Even before this, in 1004 CE, the princes of Kashmir had allied against the Ghaznavids, but were crushed by Mahmud. Further raids on Kashmir occurred in 1021 CE, though these campaigns achieved limited success, and Islam's influence in Kashmir remained minimal until the 14th century. Mahmud's campaigns brought plunder and devastation to the Indian subcontinent. In 1004 CE, his forces attacked Bhatinda, south of Lahore, seizing 120 elephants and significant wealth. In 1014 CE, he raided Thanesar, destroying the idol of Chakraswami and transporting it to Ghazni. These acts of desecration were emblematic of Mahmud's campaigns, characterized by ruthless plunder and humiliation of anyone who resisted. Yet historians note that during these raids, jizya, religious tax, was not imposed, nor were forced conversions mandated. The primary goal was economic gain, with religion serving as a secondary justification. The scale of Mahmud's looting was unparalleled. Between 1018 and 1019 CE, his army attacked Mathura, Mutra, the birthplace of Lord Krishna in Hindu theology, looting immense wealth. For instance, the ruler of Kanauj was forced to surrender an estimated 3 million dirhams, 55,000 slaves, and 350 elephants. Such acts raise serious questions about the true motivations behind these invasions. Far from serving any faith, these actions were centered on amassing wealth and transferring it to Ghazni, where it bolstered Mahmud's power and prestige. One of Mahmud's most infamous campaigns was the attack on the Somnath Temple between 1025 and 1026 CE. This event, glorified in certain historical narratives, has had lasting repercussions. Located on the southwestern coast of the Kathiawar Peninsula, the temple was dedicated to the moon god Mahadeva and famed for its vast treasures. Mahmud traversed the Thar Desert and Multan to reach Somnath, where he orchestrated a brutal massacre of approximately 55,000 people. Entering the temple, he ordered the idol to be destroyed and reportedly looted wealth estimated at 10 to 20 million dinars, equivalent to 1 to 2 crore gold dinars. The temple was then burned to ashes. The aftermath of this plunder was equally significant. Mahmud received the title Hammer of the Infidels from the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad, cementing his image as a champion of Sunni Islam. However, this glorification came at a cost. The narratives surrounding Somnath and Mahmud's campaigns have fueled divisive ideologies, with minorities in modern Pakistan often bearing the brunt of these entrenched perspectives. The population of non-Muslim minorities in Pakistan today has dwindled to a mere 2 to 3%, with their future hanging in uncertainty. In reality, Mahmud's campaigns were driven more by economic and political motives than religious devotion. The temples were targeted not because of ideological reasons, but for the wealth they contained. The glorification of such events in history serves as a reminder of the dangerous consequences of perpetuating one-sided narratives. The conquests of Mahmud of Ghazni, often celebrated as milestones in history, reveal a troubling narrative when scrutinized through reliable sources. His campaigns were not driven by religious zeal, but by material ambitions: gold, slaves, and political power. Muhammad Nazim's Life and Times of Sultan Mahmud of Ghazni and C.E. Bosworth's History of the Civilizations of Central Asia dismantle the myth that Mahmud's campaigns were about spreading Islam. His actions prioritized wealth acquisition and military expansion. Lahore, the only region where religious conversion seemed relevant, already had Islamic roots from Muhammad bin Qasim's earlier campaigns. Ironically, while Pakistan's textbooks celebrate both Mahmud and Muhammad bin Qasim as heroes, Mahmud himself labeled the Muslim communities in Sindh and Multan as heretics, specifically targeting the Ismailis for their allegiance to the Fatimid Caliphate over the Sunni Abbasids. Mahmud declared them infidels and launched brutal campaigns against them. Between 1006 and 1010, Mahmud ravaged Multan, targeting its Ismaili ruler, Abul Fath Daud, and his followers. Massacres, ransom demands, and forced conversions marked his reign. This aggression extended beyond Hindus to include Shiites and other Muslim sects, such as the Mazdakites, as seen in 1029 when Mahmud's forces massacred them under the pretense of purifying Islam. These actions reveal a history of internal religious conflict that contradicts the narrative of a united Islamic conquest. The glorification of Mahmud in modern textbooks overlooks the deep divisions his campaigns created, divisions that laid the groundwork for ongoing sectarian violence in the region. The phrase rings true when examining the aftermath of 1947, where communal conflicts transitioned into sectarian strife. As historical narratives continued to glorify conquerors like Mahmud, the realities of their divisive policies were ignored, perpetuating a cycle of internal conflict. Differences in interpretation of faith led to bloodshed, a pattern that traces its roots back to figures like Mahmud. Mahmud's reign thrived on plunder, not governance. The Ghaznavid Empire, which stretched across vast territories, collapsed a mere decade after his death in 1030. His successors, particularly his sons Masud and Muhammad, continued oppressive practices, torturing ministers for failing to meet tax quotas. This unsustainable system of exploitation led to the empire's rapid decline. By 1040, the Seljuks dismantled what remained of the Ghaznavid domain, proving that empires built on greed and oppression are destined to fall. Even Al-Biruni, a renowned scholar of the Ghaznavid era, detailed the horrors of Mahmud's invasions, describing the fear and destruction they spread. Libraries were burned, including the Great Library of Ray, simply because it housed Shia texts. This cultural annihilation, driven by sectarian animosity, stands in stark contrast to the grandeur often attributed to Mahmud's conquests. Statements like those made by Khawaja Asif, which question the glorification of Mahmud, challenge long-standing myths. And rightly so, truthful accounts of history should form the foundation of education, not selective glorifications that paint invaders as heroes while ignoring the destruction they wrought. For decades, Pakistan's curriculum has celebrated Mahmud of Ghazni, with his image prominently displayed in museums and monuments, his name etched onto military accolades, and his era linked to the supposed foundation of Urdu. Yet, the atrocities of his rule, the plunder, destruction, and devastation of local communities, remain largely untold. The glorification of figures like Mahmud has not united the region. Instead, it has perpetuated divisions. The 1971 secession of East Pakistan and the ongoing struggles for national integration among Baloch, Pashtun, and Punjabi communities reveal the flaws in these narratives. Consequentialism, the idea of justifying actions by their outcomes, fails here. Not only were Mahmud's actions morally questionable, but their long-term consequences have been disastrous. The solution lies in honesty. For over 80 years, the region has taught distorted histories, creating generations disconnected from their roots. This approach has given nothing but division, mistrust, and a fractured identity. To heal, we must reject narratives that glorify oppression. Teaching authentic histories, grounded in facts rather than myths, is essential. Reconnecting with truth and rejecting false heroes is not just a matter of education, but a necessity for unity and progress. It's time to place historical figures like Mahmud of Ghazni in their proper context, not as paragons of virtue, but as complex figures whose actions had profound, often devastating consequences for South Asia. We hope you enjoyed exploring this fascinating chapter of history with us. Let us know your thoughts and feedback in the comments section below. We'd love to hear your perspective. Don't forget to like and share this video with others who share your passion for history. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to Speaking History for more captivating stories from the past. See you in the next episode.